Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a live edition of Boys Don't Cry. Now, this is a very special live edition. We're in partnership with Time to Change and Joe, of course. Thank you, Joe.co.uk. We're talking about men and mental health tonight. We're going to try and find some humour in it as well because it's such a hilarious topic. But we are going to hunt for that. There's going to be depth, revelation, sharing. Does that sound like fun? Well, I can see you're not ready for my guests yet. It's going to take quite some fucking warming up. So, why is this a subject in its own right? You know, why is it such a big thing? Men and mental health. What's the difference? Why do so many men go off the rails longer, harder, deeper and older? Why? Now, I'm not saying that there isn't female mental health. Of course there is. We could maternity and stuff like that, postnatal depression, whole different subject. But let's face it, look at the stats, gentlemen. We go wrong more, longer and older. Why? Girls, you do have your own shit, but girls tend to grow out. They've got one specific thing that holds them back till about the age of 25 called attracted to bastard disease. And it is horrific. It can hold them back till they're 30. Look at him. He looks like he might emotionally abuse me. And it can hold them back for years. Do you want to buy me a drink? I know. But they tend to sort their shit out, whereas men, there are many men in this room listening, quite capable of being aged 40, living in a studio flat, masturbating into a sock, biryani carton at the foot, going, do you know what? I think I've lost my fucking way here. Now, this isn't a comedy night, so I'm interested in asking why. It's funny to observe it, thank God, because if we don't have laughter, what do we have? Well, I certainly wouldn't be able to pay my mortgage. But why, gentlemen? What's different about us, apart from a few obvious, wobbly biological differences? We're the same creatures. We're all Homo sapiens. What have girls got that we don't have, gentlemen? And I'll tell you what it is. It's the reason why we're here. Do you know what women have that men don't have? Women have other women. It's as simple as that. They have a little network around them. You know you can pick up the phone to right now. They form a protective circle around a girl. Carol's beak's gone grey. Form a circle around Carol. Guard the eggs. Guard Carol's eggs. She's gone wrong. Guard the eggs, right? It's instant and automatic, isn't it, girls, right? Well, it's not. It doesn't come as easy to us, gentlemen, does it? Because we don't like it if we can't see a solution straight away. That's one of the things girls are brilliant at. Talking about a problem even when there's no solution. What a skill. Most men are like, what's the point in talking about something that can't be fucking changed, yeah? Why discuss it if it can't be changed? What's the point in talking about something if it's broken? Whereas the female approach, you know what, let's talk about it anyway. Let's light an aromatherapy candle, get Carol and Linda over, and I felt better just for discussing it. Right? We don't have that, do we, gentlemen? We've got nothing a lot of the time. The most we've got is Gary's having a breakdown, put him in the bushes, I don't want to watch it, right? It's your deposit you're going to lose for Faliraki, Gary, because of your depression. Well, not anymore, gentlemen. Women outlive us. They outlive us by 5 to 10 years. That doesn't happen in every culture on the planet. Are you aware of that? Yeah, it's a biological fact, isn't it? Men, we don't know why. Men just going to die 5 to 10. It's bullshit. It doesn't happen in country. It's a problem of Western culture, of us isolating ourselves. Don't you agree, ladies? Have you seen what happens to women when they get in their 40s and 50s? A second flowering. Feminine networks become more important, do they not, ladies, in the sexy society we're in? Longer conversations, more connections, 3 hours on the phone, hairstyles changing, adapting. Why shouldn't I learn Instagram just because I'm 60? Life goes on, right? Is it the same for men? Is it? Fuck. I can see men in this room already with hair freeze, where your hair freezes at the age of 30, never to alter again, just because it's the style you have. Musical taste freezing, political taste freezing for life, never altering. How many men used to talk all the time and meet at the pub when they're in their 20s? It gets less and less, legs, hugs, less kisses, less communication, into the chair in the corner, isolation, heart attack, death. That's my reason. I think we think ourselves to death, gentlemen. The more we talk, the more we laugh, the longer we survive. Is that not motivation for talking in its frickin' self? You've got men pegging it 10 years. It leaves a generation of women, relatively young these days, in their 60s, still alive, who then have to pretend to grieve, the poor bastards, yeah? How will I survive without Barry ruining my life with his moaning? How will I go on? You can park forever, Barry. Goodbye. So that's what we're talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about men being forced to discuss things on this show and then hopefully naturally discussing things in the future. Is that clear? I can see it's a really warm, easy audience panel, so I don't foresee any complications here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, shall we get some guests on? Yeah! Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage my guests for today. Political satirist Jolyon Rubinstein.
Yeah! Hey, hey.
Musician, producer, host of ITV2's Hate the Players and one half of Rizzle Kicks, Jordan Stevens. And host of ITV2's Don't Hate the Players. That'll edit in fine. And television presenter Olivia Wayne.
Shall I?
Statistically, 1 in 4 of us will fight a mental health problem in any given year. Yet men, for some reason, don't talk about it. You wouldn't believe it, looking at the men staring at me stonily in this room. So tonight, we're going to get to the bottom of what's going on, gentlemen, with my guests here. And as I say, we're in partnership with Time to Change. It's all about discussing things. It's all about dispelling some of the stigma around mental health discussion. And that's what we're going to hope to get started tonight. So first of all, how are you? Normally, it's bullshit in our culture, isn't it? How are you? Good, yep, move on. We don't want to hear an answer, but I genuinely mean it.
Yeah. I've been quite anxious.
Really?
Yeah, I almost had a panic attack for the first time.
Are you joking?
The other day. No, I did. It was a very strange feeling. Someone said to me recently, there's my panic just dropping on the floor.
No one else heard that.
No, someone said to me something recently that really resonated with me, especially given the fact that we were going to do this talk today, which is we're just doing the best we can with the tools that we have.
Yeah.
Right?
Love that. Yeah.
Did you tell him that?
Yeah, George told me.
Did I actually say that?
Yeah, you've almost gone full Russell Brand with the dog, so your guru stage is just next stage. No, I'm joking. It's, my father went into quite a... Sorry, Dad, for sharing. He'd be like, what the hell are you doing talking about my things in public? He doesn't talk like that. Yeah, he does. But my dad went into a depression after his father passed away. And so I took him to India, to Goa, to try and help him. Actually, all he actually needed was a dog. But I didn't know that at the time. And it was, a little bit trad because, people were doing yoga all over the beach and being like, how was your day? Oh, the pranayama is just so strong today, the prana from the sun. I feel fantastic. And I was like, prick. But only because I was scared of what they were saying.
Yeah. That was me.
And then I sort of got into it. So I'm dyslexic, but also I'm quite, as you know, and Jordan knows, I'm a very intense person. And for me, it was like...
I've gathered.
Yes, and Olivia's gathered. I've
Agree
met
with
her
me.
once.
Tell me I'm intense.
But it was nice because I sort of found a couple of tools, right? Like I learned how to meditate and realised that actually meditation is just closing your eyes and listening to yourself breathe, and your breath can tell you a lot. And got into yoga, and that has kind of really helped me. So when I did actually feel like I was going to have a panic attack, and I'm not joking, that's the first time that's ever happened to me, I was like, shit, I need to probably go to a class or something. And in the same way, probably, I'm not teetotal, but I know a lot of people who do suffer from addiction, and they need to go to meetings. It's like an outlet. My mental health changed completely when I used this tool that I had learned. And it's really difficult because a lot of my mates who probably need to go and have some sort of helpful, mentally stabilising practice are the most resistant to it. They're the fucking lads who, exactly like you say, like their idea of therapy is a fucking football WhatsApp group. Tell me a man here, put your hands up if you're in a football WhatsApp group. I rest my case.
Oh my God.
Hey, whatever works, though.
No, they're just like, yeah, that 4-4-2 really didn't work and Kante's shit in his new role.
What, specific?
By the way, how's
wait,
your
hold
mum?
on. You're in a WhatsApp group specific to football?
Yes, Jordan.
Yeah, well, because I hate football.
You what?
I'm not.
You what, mate?
I'm not in that side. I'm not in the side group. I don't hate football. I don't get it. It's like people just kicking something. It doesn't do anything for me. So there's like a side group. I'm in the main boys group, which still isn't any better. It's just here's a goat fucking something.
Yeah.
How many goats have fucked how many things? I've seen enough goat shagging videos to laugh. There's no substance there. If any substance comes over on the group, like if someone goes, yeah, there's a goat, and there's another goat, and someone goes, I've been feeling down, an immediate splinter group forms at the side. Do you think Dave's okay? But most... I don't want to preempt what we're going to talk about, because we are going to talk about technology and stuff like that, but you're totally right. So, Jordan, you good?
Yeah, I'm really good.
How's your prana? Is it fine?
How's my what?
Your yogic prana.
Yeah, no, I'm all right, man. I'm not too bad. I'm sorry to hear about the panic attack thing. I think I myself have a campaign called I Am Whole, which was birthed from me writing a song about being depressed which actually is kind of funny. Not funny because I was depressed, but funny because I was trying to write a song about my aversion to words, that begin with curved letters.
Hey.
All right, so that sounds...
I love a specific phobia.
That's wild, isn't it? No, seriously, I know it sounds bizarre, but
Have you got your phobia of like the
It's
letter?
not a phobia, just there were some words that made me feel uncomfortable when I looked at them. So, like, for example, Oasis as a band name used to freak me out as a kid because it didn't have... Listen, we're all odds.
We're going
We're all on the spectrum.
We're just journeying through life of quirks. That's how it works. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I think it didn't have like a solid backing to me, so it freaked me out. So anyway, I thought that was a bizarre thing to think. So I started writing about what I thought was my aversion to curved edges. Yeah. And I ended up writing about my own spiral into depression.
It's not funny.
It's like the type of phobia an interior designer would have or something. I can't bear curves.
No, but it's the thing, isn't it? It's aesthetic. I think
there's so many specific...
It sounds bizarre in that context, but I think that same feeling, it can be transferred in so many other places. But anyway, so I've been doing a lot of the stuff with my mental health campaign, but it's a lot of pressure, you know, because it's like it reached more people than I ever could have imagined. And then, so now I get a lot of people asking me for like little advice or whatever. But like last week, I was in an awful state. Do you know what I mean? And then fronting a mental health campaign whilst feeling shit about yourself is like so
But when you say depression, because we do have to be careful because it's quite a plastic word, isn't it? Well, we throw it around.
No.
Is it a proper deep depression?
Yeah. Well, it was my subjective version of depression. I don't know I think it would be, if it continued that way for 2 or 3 weeks, I would consider like doubling my therapy or medication, but the only way I can describe it is it felt like a puncture wound. It's like it feels like a kind of, it's like, you know, it feels as though I'm an airplane and something's punctured the window, you know, and then you have like things flying at the gap, and they're little objects that usually you would have in one place and you'd understand where they were, but because of the hole in the window, they're stuck. And it's tough getting through that, but you know there are various things. Talking is one of them. And my dog Spike, I've just got. He's lying down there.
Chilling.
Genuinely, I read the other day that a dog can extend the lifespan by 10 years.
I know.
And he got me out of, you know, that's one of the biggest things I say with depression is you have to move, and because it literally stops you. It's like you don't want to move. You know what I mean? It tells you, it like weighs you down, but what you got to do is get up. In the same way with anxiety, you have to slow down.
I swear my pet's keep me. It's hell when you're a touring stand-up having a dog and a cat. Yeah. It's just a logistical nightmare the whole time.
Yeah, it is.
I cannot imagine. Ever since I started, I had a cat called Keith, and I've got a pug called Colin, and sometimes
I love that.
Sometimes I can get in, and Lindsay's like, "Let's have a 5-hour conversation about what someone said," and I'm like, "Do you know what?" Sometimes an animal is like, it's alive, but it doesn't want anything.
I'm going to put a little red flag up there, Russell. I'm going to stick a little red flag in the air, mate. Is it probably the bit when you swerve speaking to a human being?
So exhausted. You're so exhausted and finished. But instead of being completely not able to interact, sometimes just having a cat on your lap. Because I've got one of those. He's a Burt Miller, so he comes like a dog.
Do you know, just as a subjunct to that, because I was with Jordan a lot last week.
You've got a hamster?
And it was, no, I've got a hamster. But Jordan was really killing it last week. And it's really funny because it just reminded me that the external and the internal world have so little to do with each other. Because in the external world, we were doing something that was, you know, really exciting, and he was, you know, performing magnificently. It was amazing. But it's so funny because it doesn't really matter. Because a lot of the time, and I think this is a lot of the problem with men, is we look at, you know, if you just had a camera pointed at the top of your head and you're just walking around doing your daily routine, going to work, going to the office, coming home, watching EastEnders, whatever, going to bed, you wouldn't know that someone is going through something. No. And I think a lot of women are a lot more quick to check in with their female friends, going, "You all right, baby? How you doing?" Whereas guys are just like, talk about practical things like, we see each other on Saturday.
Let's check that, because that is the stereotype, Olivia Wayne. But is it true? I was trying to make light of it earlier, but in my experiences, that is the key difference. Women they've got like a squad of feeling ninjas that just drop in through the window.
So true.
How's Carol?
Feeling ninjas, I like that.
Whereas
I agree with you.
Blokes are... we have it, but like I say, it's a WhatsApp group with goat porn.
But I do think, I don't know, but my girlfriends, we're very sensitive. We can even tell on a response of a WhatsApp, something's up, you know? We just project that vibe, something's not right. And we do communicate a lot more, and we take a lot more time to listen to each other's feelings, and we care about that stuff. And I don't think that men don't care, but maybe they don't know how to ask the right question necessarily, or, you know, they might take a throwaway comment as a throwaway joke comment rather than...
Here's my elephant in the room theory. Because the first thing I want to talk about is being in a mate's corner, being there for a mate, checking in twice. They're the things we're going to talk about
I love
today.
that you put the accent on every time.
I know.
I love that that's the default man voice.
Who the fuck am I?
Couldn't
have two more like metrosexual men sitting up here being like, I had a panic attack, let's talk about
That is my internal masculine monologue, is my dad beating some sheet metal down his shed. But,
beating sheet metal
that's
down.
what he did.
Sheet metal.
What, to get
metal
out
made
his
of
aggression
sheet.
and anxiety?
Sheet.
Oh, sheet.
So imagine
a bit more
my
sense.
dad was like shaven-headed 16-stone sheet metal worker, insulation engineer, right-wing steroid user, and he had me skipping around going, I want to study poetry. I mean, it was just...
Yin and yang, yo.
It was a living hell.
Life was trying to balance that shit out.
Yeah, bro.
You had someone kind of God, you had a kind of whatever what you would want to believe is controlling these kind of destinies, and then seen your dad and gone like, fuck, you know, we're going to have to balance his family.
It was literally the
Very
fear.
strange.
When I started copying dances off TV and stuff like, he's dancing again, Julie. We had all of that. But he's reading. Show some respect. Stop fucking reading. No, being in a mate's
What's
corner.
the elephant?
Right. So being in a mate's corner is good in theory, but this is an uncomfortable thing I want to talk about. Sometimes I think the person asking, "Are you okay, mate?" doesn't actually want to get a negative answer.
Yeah.
It's all very well saying we should be checking in more, but it's a bit of a problem if the person asking you secretly is hoping, please don't answer.
Do you know
Why?
what?
Because they don't know how to deal with that problem, or they just don't care.
I was thinking about this when you were just saying before, when you were like, I think women can sense it more. I think actually men are more selfish, and sometimes actually we don't really want to deal with the length of time and energy that's going to take. And one of my best mates, who I won't name, Jamie. Hey, Jamie, on Sunday.
See in the football WhatsApp group?
No, but we were in the pub, and he's had a daughter. He's got a lot going on, and I was talking about something, and he was literally like talking to me like this. There's a TV there, right? And he's listening to me. He's like this.
Oh, I hate tellies in pubs. Tellies in pubs. There's us. Oh, we're on it.
And it was like, that it just craned his neck towards whether Liverpool would score.
You shouldn't have asked him questions during the match.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, maybe pick your moment.
He asked me. He was like, "So how you doing?" I was like, "Well."
Yeah, but he didn't want to hear it.
Like, Jamie, I'm feeling vulnerable.
But
is it half time?
But that is the bottom line. Yeah.
Priorities.
Isn't there a difference, between being like, "Hi, you all right?" to like, "Is everything all right?" Like, it's how you ask it.
Yeah.
You can't, like, just because someone says, "You okay?" for you to be like, "Well, actually."
But Olivia, I think sometimes, I'm being really overly honest here. I think sometimes the man is saying, right, I better say it. Mate, I'm really checking, are you okay? But he's still hoping, please don't fucking lay anything heavy on me. There's an almost a cowardliness there, or a shyness that must be addressed or must be spoken about at least. There's a fear. I'll admit my fear sometimes. I'll go to a friend and like, mate, I'm really checking if you're okay. I'm still part of me thinking, please say you've sorted your shit out.
Yeah, no, but I think the difference is what I found from interacting with girls and boys is that there doesn't seem to be an understanding that there doesn't need to be an answer with women.
Right.
Like even when you introduced this, you said we're going to try and find a solution. Yeah. Which I think is like such a male thing to think, because it's like I feel it's like
That's true.
Yeah, I've come to this a lot of the time with my girlfriend. The issue, well, not issue. You find that you're fix it, and it's not just exclusive to men, but I feel the natural disposition is to fix something.
100%.
So a lot of the time, even if you are open with a male friend, the answer's like, well, do this or do that. Yeah. When actually, the real therapeutic nature of talking is just to actually get the energy out of you.
That's spot on.
Yeah, so like if you sit down and if your mate just looked you in the eyes and allowed you to say it and then left the silence, which is another thing men are afraid of. I don't know, is that actually, I want to ask the audience, do you find you feel silences in male friendships?
I agree with everything you're saying, but I think it's really important to separate the men from the boys.
Wow.
And I would say the boys survive and fix. Where the men, it's not all about surviving and finding trouble to fix.
Yeah.
It's about being with, and like you said, it's listening.
Holding space.
And if I'm going to listen to your shit in the pub, that means I need to feel my own shit. And if I'm not willing to feel my shit, then I don't want to know anything about yours. So if I can reach mine, then I can reach yours. Otherwise, nah.
I hear that.
Yeah,
But
I
think
here's the
that's
question-
very
Here's the
intuitive.
question for you then. I think this is bang on what you're saying. What does separate the men from the boys? How does the boy become a man in your world?
People need to be trained to listen.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Not to fix, not to second guess, but to sit in the shit and let it be.
And let it feel, yeah.
Exactly.
I was going to say the irony is a lot of my friends would rather sit in shit than actually talk about their feelings.
Yeah.
But
I
loads
came
of people
back.
would. It takes a lot of work and a lot of soul searching, and it's uncomfortable to deal with your shit.
Yeah.
It's a
If
horrible
you're surviving
process.
it, if you're surviving
I think
it,
that-
if
But
you're
we're all
willing to go-
surviving, but maybe we're surviving
Nah.
with like internal angst and anxiety and panic attacks, but you
That's
kind of
what-
survive.
Totally agree.
In short, what you're saying, I really believe in, and that is something that one would hope is a natural port of call for men. There's also another thing I want to bring up when we move on about a rite of passage, because I think the difference between boys and men is another thing that is in our culture.
And can I just caveat by saying, like, I was, taking the piss. Jamie, I love you. It's all good. I'm really happy. I'm the best man at your wedding. No, he's an incredible. I'm very lucky to have an incredibly caring,
Passionate football supporter.
Yeah, passionate football supporter. A sort of group of people around me who really do listen. But, and this is the point, part of the thing about finding the tools is also what energy you surround yourself with, because I sort of believe in that thing where the energy you give off is what comes back to you. And also, Liv, when they were just talking about that, I was reminded when we did our first record on the show, you were talking about your brother and the complete change that happened. I don't know if you want to talk about it.
I wasn't going to bring that up
Right.
again, but no, but just
It's just incredibly
for
informative
someone who
about
was
the journey.
Yeah, well, he started his career. He was like, one of those suffers no fool, very angry, suppressing a lot of emotion, very successful, like get in my way and I will flatten you. And then he had a big pause when my father got ill, and suddenly realised what was important, and is now, enjoys therapy. It's like, oh, I wasn't a good guy back then. I didn't realise, and he talks about things, and now rather than getting angry, he'll be like, what's this emotion I'm feeling? Let's talk about it a bit more.
Hearing Jolyon talk about tools and everything, it's all very well. We're quite sort of able
I've
to
got them.
express ourselves and quite emotionally.
So
literate
does he.
men.
He's got them.
But I was just...
I'm joking.
I was thinking, we've got a very practical tool, and it's part of this campaign we're talking about, this Time to Change campaign, about asking twice. It's one of the simplest things you can start to do, particularly as blokes. We take the first answer. You all right? Yep, good. Scratching's pint, silence. Whereas if you sense there is a problem, even though it might take courage, it's quite an easy little change to make in your life, just to check in again in a slightly different way. Are girls better at that than boys, or do you even need the second check-in? What do you think?
I guess it depends. Maybe we'll be like, let's get together. Let's go for a glass of wine. And we're a bit better at kind of like, oh, I've had such a bad day, I want to talk. And once you share and give stuff of yourself away, people are a lot more inclined to do the same. But I guess it depends on friendship groups. I don't know that you can generalise. Some girls will be closed off and won't want to talk about their feelings.
But what I guess the point I'm making about the gender divide is more, it's my opinion, that a woman would struggle less to ask a second time maybe. She wouldn't feel as embarrassed about it. Whereas a bloke's like, I don't think he's okay. I'm going to ask again. There's a block there. Right? Am I exaggerating, gents? There is, right? So Jordan, what's the best way to approach the second time? You can't just go again, sure, you're all right. It's got to have a different tone to it, a different feel.
It's space. That's genuinely the thing, I think. I mean, like, aside of very progressive men's groups, which I really hope actually spread, there's something I'd like to facilitate myself, but it's the silence, man. That's the thing I find, is that even if you ask a couple a bit how you are, it's like what is it? It's like tempting. It's like tempting an animal out of like a cave with a bit of food.
It's a good analogy.
No, because I find there's a moment, I think, if you actively want to speak to your male friends and they go, "How you doing?" You go, "Oh man, I'm feeling a bit down" or whatever, and they might be like, "Oh, why are you feeling like that?" And then there's silence, right? And there's I'd say, from my experience, there's like a 60 to 70% chance that silence would be filled with a joke or an attempt to fix. So it'll be like, I'll tell you what, why don't we do you know what I mean? When actually, if you just leave that, and someone will then say, and then it takes a while. And that's what I found from my guy mates, is that like if I just ask a question and don't respond, they come out again and again with little bits and bobs, and that's how I think you really get an answer.
If you didn't get an answer, would you ever be like, I'm here if you want to talk? Like, I'm always here for you.
Yeah.
Would you just leave that with them?
I wouldn't. I genuinely would. If it was and the only other thing I do, which I think is a little bit problematic, is it's still kind of fixy, but you try and guess or something. Well, I'm not trying to guess, but you try and...
Is it your weight that you put on?
Yeah. No, but you think like, if it's this, then I think this or whatever, and then they go, and then it like eases them in. They go, no, actually, and then it kind of starts the conversation. I don't know, but I do think that it's a large part of the whole. Vibe around mental health amongst men is to do with there being a lack of rite of passage in our culture, in like maybe Western society. I don't know about other societies, but I feel as though there's transitionary things that happen in other cultures that cause boys to become men, and it's always to do with pain. And it's because it's the understanding that pain is something that sits with you temporarily and then goes. And in regards to emotion, we live in a society that will set up ways that you can literally avoid painful emotion as a man. That's what I actually deem as privilege. I know privilege is a bit of a trigger word because it gets used thrown around all the time. But my understanding of the term privilege is the ability to avoid pain, basically, the freedom to avoid pain. So I don't actually think it's a good thing at all. So like you get this beautiful freedom to be almost congratulated for avoiding pain. You can be kind of like a destructive loon and get clapped for it. You can kind of be like a bit of a romantic, like Casanova and get clapped for it. There's loads of stuff you can do that you'll be appreciated for and celebrated for. Whereas the feminine attribute of sitting down and feeling your pain, actualizing the pain, be that crying or talking, is actually punished. Feminine qualities are still punished in our language. You say gay, pussy. Words are powerful like that anyway. Yeah. It indicates another...
Jolly, just because... Can I just stay on what Jordan said just 2 seconds?
Yes.
Because I think there's so much truth, and as someone who really does struggle with silence, not just in my emotional life, but like in my professional life, like in meetings, in creative scenarios...
What do you mean, keeping silent or...?
No, feeling it. You
right,
feel it.
Sorry, that's what you mean.
I feel this heat that enters my chest and a kind of tingling because I probably don't feel like enough. And that stimulates a sort of necessary need to either go above or below the conversation in terms of, you undercut it with a joke or you say something smarter. And I think there is that sort of currency in masculinity, which is quite odd. But just getting back to the idea of the tools that I was talking about, again, a really wise thing that was said to me once was that also in the West, what we do is we identify with our emotions so much that you say, well, what's he like? Oh, he's a happy person, or he's an angry person, or he's a sad person. Whereas it's much more akin, the emotional kind of landscape, to weather systems. So some days it rains, some days it's windy, some days you're angry, some days you're sad. But the earth always remains the earth. You are the constant, and your emotions pass. And that's why the central tenet of the Yoga Vedas and Buddhism is this too shall pass. And I do think
anyone who has a baby, this too shall pass. The phases, not the baby.
It doesn't, though, does it? That's the biggest,
the phases of a baby.
That's the biggest load of bullshit I've ever been told. It's like, oh, this is as bad as it gets when she was 2, and then they get to 3 and it's fucking worse.
No, but this too shall pass
until they leave home.
It will evolve into something else.
Exactly, like, it's never going to be as bad as Night Beat, is it? And then you live in with Hannibal Lecter, which is what all 3-year-olds are.
It does strike me. We don't accept as men that vulnerability is strength.
I want to talk more about being in each other's corners and what that means, because I think blokes have developed things that they think is being in each other's corners, but it's a bit of a cop-out, particularly technology. We've mentioned it a couple of times already, WhatsApp. I actually think WhatsApp and text is a really poor substitute for proper interaction, but we feel like it's the real thing. And all the research...
But that's life for everyone. That's not just men and their relationships, no?
Correct, but as you've already said, you're more likely to intuit from a WhatsApp.
Right.
That font doesn't look quite right. I better call Kelly.
Why that emoji? Yeah.
That font doesn't look right.
Whereas all the research suggests, that even if you have a really in-depth text WhatsApp, or even a phone conversation, it doesn't have the same life-giving, cardioprotective, neuroprotective, emotional benefit as face-to-face contact.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us pretend it does.
Well, that's a fact, isn't it? That's that's not conjecture. We live in a very bizarrely disconnected digital world. I think Tim Berners-Lee gave us the internet for us all to sort of sit at home on our sofas, laughing at the television whilst talking about it on WhatsApp.
Let's talk about social media, because I don't know about you, Jordan, Olivia, I do think that is part of the problem.
100%.
It occurred to me earlier that we live in a society where we share every single freaking thing.
Hate it.
Instagram thing, we think, here's me being happy, here's me in the pool, here's my quiche, I was in love with it earlier. We share every aspect of our life, yet face to face, share nothing.
We don't share every aspect of our lives. We share the things we want to share, the positive things, ultimately the bragging things. It could have been the best quiche, so you want everyone to know that. And I don't think, no one's really talking.
Not talking.
Sharing,
showing,
honestly.
Displaying. Gary,
Right,
there
they
are plenty of pain displayers. It's like, oh my God, my breakup's been so bad, here's my mascara thing. There's loads of that shit as well.
But that's not real. None of it's getting down to the core of the emotion.
I think we can agree
topic.
that social media has an advantage in that it can unify support.
But
do you
for
think
average,
sorry.
not average Joe, sorry, but for
Joe.
non-celebrities or those with not a huge following, I don't think people are using it to kind of be like, can I just be honest and real
Is
here?
it part of the problem, Joe? Because we live in an era, supposedly, where men are talking more and more, and we're sharing more, and we're more in touch with our feelings, and yet male suicide's creeping up, male mental health's getting worse. Something's driving this. Can I throw social media in there
100%.
as a candidate? I've got a lot of friends who have gone off Facebook, not because they don't want to see other people's successful lives, it's because you don't want to see Kelly and Dan in the Maldives loved up if you're having a shit week and you're working at McDonald's or something. It's not that you're not happy for them, it just it does your head in and you feel awful for it. You're like, is our marriage as perfect as this? Even though you know it's bullshit, it's like this poison being drip-fed in.
What
do you not think it's a driver?
I think the only space I can think in my head in which it would exacerbate issues is in terms of like constantly knowing what someone's doing. Like I think there's like there's a real loss of mystery in this generation where you can actually. You know what I mean? You can go out and then that's your space out and then you come back. I feel like the real darkness of social media would pull into relationship angst. And I know that a lot of men deal with stuff like breakups or, I mean, I know I've struggled with that in the past, but breakups or just the general dynamics of relationships, it can, because they don't necessarily have the tools to deal with shit, it can really get bad. Like, you know, an
No, but
invasion
that's
generally.
right. That's exactly. It exacerbates all your insecurities, all your fears, all the bad thoughts going through your head are exacerbated by social media. And you two are quite in touch with your feelings and talking. So for you, it might not bother you. But if someone...
No, it does bother me. Well,
it's in like other
me a
stuff.
lot as well.
Right, but say like if someone is killing it in their career, say, and you want that career, and all you see is them succeeding and I'm not, you're just comparing all the time, and you're not comparing to the reality, you're comparing to their highlight reel.
And men are competitive too with that shit.
Yeah, I think
women, everyone.
Well, yeah, no, but I think what Jordan's got into
Sure.
is something that's like really key to the sort of alpha point, right? Where there's this kind of like core mentality that goes back to the bond thing, that goes back to kind of what we're taught about in school, goes back to the fact if you talk about your emotions, you're called gay from a very young age, where it's sort of like there is a very definitive maleness that's about being better than your mates. It's very strange. It's not even, the thing is, if you actually spoke to 4 friends, they'd go, no, it's nothing to do with that. And all of them would secretly go, yeah, it is. And it's a very strong... I had an argument with one of my oldest best friends. This is years ago now. We'd grown apart somewhat. And his whole narrative, and he couldn't talk about it unless he got quite drunk. And ironically, actually, I'm not going to say that because it identifies him. But there was a...
It's not Jamie, is it?
No, it's not Jamie. I love you, Jamie. But the truth was that he actually said to me at some point, and that was the point where you started doing better than me in life. Oh. And I was like, really... Because it really sticks with me because exactly this underlying truth is... We're not very good at lifting each other up, are we?
Yeah, but, you know, women aren't either. I don't think that, you know...
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
You know, there's a special place in hell for the women that don't help other women and all that. I don't think everyone's like, hey, come on, sister, up we go. It's a bit like, cool, can you see my shoes down there? Do you know what I mean? I think maybe that's just human nature, survival of the fittest.
I've seen plenty of people going through like veiled references on social media. That's something else that worries me, a tradition that's starting. You know who you are, but you've ruined my life.
I hate that.
God, that's awful.
DM me for more details. Like, what are you getting? What are you getting from showing the pain but withholding the reason? Public, that's an odd thing. I might put my own head in.
Do you know what I think? Do you know what I think is so wild though about what I've found is that the biggest issue I find between men and or the male idea of being a man and emotions is that emotions don't make sense. That's the thing that I think is just baffles so many people. Is that like you can find a root cause for them, sure. There can be you can guess, but the actual feeling of them and when they go is just from being in touch with them, and that doesn't make sense. And I think that's what is I find weird. So it's like it's such a battle between the mind and body. I'll get a feeling and it's uncomfortable, and my mind will suddenly start going, okay, how can I get out of this, or how can I do this, or maybe if someone's doing better than me on Instagram, I'll go and write this and da-da-da-da. But genuinely, if I just sit there and go, I feel inadequate because I'm scared of not doing well, if I actually acknowledge that and leave it, it fucking goes.
Totally.
It goes, and I don't
But
think
look
you're
how
ever
in
taught
tune
that.
you are. Like, other people would just be like, oh, feeling rubbish, suppress.
No, but I struggle with it.
Yeah.
I struggle with it all the time. And you know, like when I felt depressed last week, it becomes a vacuum. Like everything becomes more difficult. But that's what I work on in therapy, is making that connection and disassociating from the thoughts that are activated from.
But even that.
I'm just conscious of your time, Olivia. We've got 5 minutes, and I know we talked some quite deep stuff, but I hope there's some tools in there. The solution I referred to at the top was a solution to get men talking.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's such a mountain in front of you, you just want a simple thing you do. Maybe ask twice is one of the tools. Maybe observing the emotion and sitting with it is another one. Hopefully it's many of the things we've spoken about. But I desperately would love to have a couple of questions from the audience, because they're probably sat there thinking, please talk about this. Please don't feel the need to be like a laser on topic if there's a side thing slightly related to it or something different.
Really know, isn't it?
Something we've not
But
thought
also,
of.
like, we're not mental health experts.
No.
So it's all just
We're
our
humans.
opinion. Yeah.
That's enough.
Well,
Well, yeah.
hold on.
I am an
Turn
android.
the pack up.
Anyone any questions or points? Oh, there's a lady I'd like to hear from at the back. We'll just wait for the microphone. So I've always wanted to say that. Just wait for the microphone. We'll bring it to you. I feel like a dimbleby.
When my son's brother died, I kept calling him and saying, "Are you okay?" And he said, "I've got my man wife." And it's his friend called Shifty or Grifty or something like that.
Friend called Shifty.
Let's call him Shifty, it's better.
He's a lovely guy. I've met
Don't
him.
muddle him up with Grifty, it's a
can't
totally
get
different
his
he turn up
nickname.
at
I can
1
never
a.m.?
remember it anyway, but he's a lovely guy. And I just thought, that is so incredible to have a man wife. And I said, well, what's he doing? And he says, he's just leaving me to be quiet, and he's making me cups of tea and feeding me.
Yeah.
Do you know
FIFA
what?
and pizza.
How do you get? What is that?
This is a really important
It's a man
point.
wife. Get yourself one.
I've been talking about this all day to lots of different people.
Thank you for sharing that.
A really important point has come up, and it's just come up there, and we haven't spoken about it once, is that there are two types of friends that might step in to help you. The first one might be like me, can't stop talking. Let's talk about this. What, are you sure it's over? Listen, mate, it's going to be... And the other one might be, do you know what? Let's just sit and play darts.
Yeah.
There's the scratches. There's the pint.
FIFA, mate.
Mate, who's got a fucking dartboard in the house, mate? That's
but-
mental for you,
Russell
isn't
does.
it?
He's got 4 in a pool.
Sometimes with blokes, it's enough,
Offshore
isn't
accounts.
it? Just to hang out. The company of the man wife.
And food
enough.
always
That's holding
helps.
space. That's holding space.
No. No one thought
it
he was. No one thought he was gay. I think what you're saying is
that's a man husband.
I've had a couple of them. I've been very blessed with 2 incredibly quiet friends, which is probably
Let's
just
call them
because I
man wives. Let's get that going.
continuously talk and there's literally no space for anyone else. And that is so fundamentally vital. And first of all, so thank you very much for sharing that. And I'm incredibly
intimacy,
sorry
yeah.
to hear about his loss, because that is a loss that my mum lost her brother, and at a very young age, and that type of thing you have to sit with for years and years and years, because 10 years is nothing. So first of all, like, he's very blessed to have that, and I would not feel as worried as maybe you do, because he's got someone who's just sitting there chilling with him, and it's a big thing.
I want a man wife.
Death. Men are so bad with it.
Yeah.
Like, so bad. I had a friend of mine, his mum passed away, and his best mates, their answer was getting pissed. Just getting pissed and go out again. He wants to get pissed. What does he want to do? He wants to get pissed. And I started adopting this tactic where I knew, like I've known him for a long time, but I knew he wouldn't answer my call. So I just started leaving voice notes on WhatsApp. And sometimes it was literally just me on a bus being like, I'm on a bus, I'm on a fucking bus, I'm on a bus. Like, I mean, it's just stupid shit. It wasn't anything like, hey man, so just to say, but just being like a constant thing that he knew was there. And then after about 2 weeks, he got back in contact with me and he just started talking, and he said that he'd listened to every single one of the messages, and it really reminded me exactly what, you know, George's saying, and this lovely person over here who just shared that about her son, is that it is the constant knowing that someone's there, right? Like that makes a huge difference.
I like that concept of giving to just have it, holding space, you call it.
You're holding space.
Nice. Any other? Oh, we have a question from a lady there. Oh, no, sorry, there's someone here, and then so this gentleman, and then this lady afterwards. Thank you. Thomas, my dimbleby, just take it. It's my moment. Yes.
The fear of vulnerability and the fear of expressing emotion in men. I guess we're challenging the kind of societal conditioning that we're all being brought up on. Boys don't cry. You're a pussy if you express any emotion. Thank you very much for demonstrating positive masculinity. I guess the question is around how do you challenge positively toxic masculinity, that kind of calling people a pussy when they express any emotion, kind of how
do you challenge it individually?
Individually, in group settings?
I don't think you can. I think this is one of the things that I think is the hardest. I think I know a lot of my friends who are like, we would say we're progressive or some shit, you know, we don't, you know what I'm saying, we're like open-minded, liberal. But one of the hardest things to do is hold other friends accountable, because there is a rhythm and a pattern that inherently comes even in my generation, and it's tough. There's a lot of music that's kind of like pretty misogynistic. There's a lot of like jokes that are misogynistic. There's a lot of you know, don't be a pussy. It can't just you say it. You don't even mean it. Gay. And sometimes it's said ironically. There's all these little moments, and I think it's quite difficult to hold. Excuse me, mate. No, none of that. Do you know what I mean? I've actually tried this on my friends, and it's uncomfortable because they feel maybe embarrassed, or they feel. So the only thing I'd say is you got to kind of be that change, you know. So like that, you just don't say it.
What about like teenagers?
And if it makes you feel uncomfortable, you have a right to say that too.
Yeah.
My point though is there will be a shift, and it's to do with compassion, and it as women find a space to not feel silenced, and I really mean it when I say women, because I think this whole idea of feminism isn't separate actually to the evolution of masculinity, because we've had so much of our lives channeled through this gaze, right? Like it's just, if you think about the proportion of stories told from a man's point of view, without having to know, and you know, without having to know really how someone felt.
I think we've got time for maybe one more question.
Sorry, I do babble a little bit.
No, not at all. That was fucking bang on,
fantastic.
mate.
It's all gold.
Gold, mate, gold.
No pressure to make it good then.
Yeah, this one.
What's your favourite colour?
Turquoise.
It's pink.
I'm one of a couple of Times Change champions that are actually here tonight.
Hurrah.
Well, congratulations.
That wasn't why I said that. Now I've gone bright red. My question was, one of the things we have a problem with and we try and challenge is language. And you've all been mentioning about pussy, etc., etc. And I actually just wondered if people are actually aware that a lot of people say so-and-so's got mental health.
Yeah.
And rather than a question, I actually wanted to know if you would possibly ask the audience to raise their hands if they have mental health.
Ooh, sure. I mean,
What do you mean if you have
mental health issues, or if they are healthy mentally?
It's a trick question.
Ah.
We all have mental health, and a lot of people use the language to mean mental illness, or that person's got mental health.
Yeah.
And actually, because there's that
mental.
fear of outing somebody, or somebody saying, I've got mental illness, they don't realise we've all got mental health, we've all got physical health.
Yeah, when you say it's physical, you can see the absurdity of what you do. I mean, listen, the reason I got involved with this podcast was not set up to be like, hey, let's explore men's mental health. It was supposed to be a funny thing where I make men uncomfortably talk about subjects they don't normally talk about. That's how it started: body hair, height, porn, stuff like that. We do have episodes like that, but I also really involved with Rethink and Times Change, Times Talk, and all things like that. And the reason is, I'm a very, very, very close relatives, I don't want to say who, but literally someone who lives in the house here, is schizophrenic, right? Very, very, very ill, can't live unassisted, ill, properly ill. And my whole experience of that has been, if this relative walked in the room, I'm not taking anything away from physical disability, but if he walked into the room, there's something wrong with his body or in a wheelchair, everyone immediately accommodates or makes allowances for if he knocks a glass over or something, or scared people because he was moving strange. You think, oh, person's got Parkinson's. I will now recalibrate how I think about that person. But when this very, very close relative of mine walks into the room, there's fear, there's stigma, there's a lack of understanding. I think, when we look back now 200 years and laugh at some of the stuff the pre-Victorians and Victorians did, I think we are currently now doing the stuff that will be laughed at in 100 years' time when it comes to mental health. We still can't look at depression.
Love Island.
Yeah, we still can't look at depression or schizophrenia on a graph. We can't see it on a scan because people don't take it seriously, so the funding's not there. And what you've just demonstrated in your experiment is people would not want to put their hands up to the phrase mental health. Even in a Boys Don't Cry mental health special, all of us thought, fuck that, I'm not putting my hand up. Every single person in this room. Which shows how far we've got to go. So thank you for your
thank you very
question.
much. I think it's great. Can I just say it's great what Russell's doing, right? Russell, like, amazing. He's doing his Boys Don't Cry thing.
We're still
Amazing.
We're still finding the tone. We're still finding the tone.
Can I ask you a quick question? Why do you think so many men are listening to this? Because I'm fascinated. Why do you think this is caught on
like
so
I
much?
said, we're still finding the tone. It lurches. I'm a comedian, so I lurch myself, and apologies if I've done so tonight, between looking for something funny and then saying something serious. That's how my brain works. But
I think it's good, man. Don't underplay laughter as well,
but particularly with men,
remedy.
Humour is useful. However, I honestly,
not your jokes,
I have to put my hand on my heart and say this was supposed to be like here today we're going to talk about porn. Isn't it funny the way men use porn? And I didn't realise all the shit that sat under porn. We talked about height. We were supposed to have a warm-up subject that was height. How tall are you? We talked for an hour and 10 minutes about how messed up men and women are, about how tall they are, how big they are, and all the stuff that came out from underneath. I started to realise that there's more to it. And I wasn't going to mention this because it really does sound like I'm banging my own drum. I really am not. Simon, the producer, wanted me to mention it. I wasn't going to. I was waiting to go on stage the other week, and it was in a hotel. And it means like when you're doing a corporate gig, you're in like the public bar, and there was another event in the bar. And this guy came up to me. He's got to be 25, 26. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying, he just started talking. I was like, oh, really, thank you. The stuff you say about male mental health, I've heard some of your routines. It's a real skill to make it funny. And that podcast you're doing, it really helped me. And then all of a sudden, just started crying. The most intense thing that has ever happened to me in my whole career. I've never had a man cry. Obviously, girls, loads of them. But I've never... No, seriously. I have never had a man move to tears over anything. Maybe at the end of one of my stand-up shows when I talked about my dad's sort of theatrical tears, but no one's ever come up to me in real life and been moved. And I was a bit uncomfortable because typical male reaction is like, oh, all right, I'm not, I didn't want to be responsible for it. I backed away from it, and I was shocked at my own reaction. Yeah. But it goes to show the appetite there is out there for blokes sitting down and talking about stuff they don't normally
also, I totally, and I'm glad you shared that story. And one thing I want to add as well, which because I feel energy or want to play some kind of balance, is that this isn't to take away from an understanding of what masculinity is. That's the confusion, I think. Sometimes it feels as though it's like, oh my God, we're going to soften up and we're going to lose stuff and we're going to be all like vulnerable to attack.
That's the Jordan Peterson model, isn't it? Like, masculinity is under attack.
Well, it's not. Well, and it's not. It's evolving. You can have both. I genuinely believe in protection. I believe in appreciating your physicality, honouring it. The discipline that comes with certain physical practices, I think, is really beneficial. But you can also cry about stuff and like actually care about people's feelings.
That is a beautiful out, if I can hold you both there. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for my panel. Jolyon Rubinstein, Jordan Stevens, and Olivia Wayne. This has been Boys Don't Cry. Boys Don't Cry comes back to iTunes with Series 2 sometime in November. If you like what you've heard, leave us a review. If you haven't, don't sod off. And remember to subscribe. I've been Russell